I think that the moment of time we're in now, and has been for a little bit of while, is that it's really no longer about ad campaigns. It's about a brand experience. And it's full 360 marketing. It's been that way for quite some time. But every moment, every touch point, and the wide variety of touch points we now have with our brands, building them offline, online, in so many different ways, it all just becomes a brand experience across so many touch points.
Welcome to the DesignRush Podcast. I'm your host, Bianca Mayer. Branding in 2024 thrives on authenticity, personalization, and the power of video, with 86% of consumers drawn to real interactions.
We often say that a really good brand foundation is something that everybody feels like they want to iterate on, they want to work with. It should immediately spark people wanting to get in a room together and, I could see this and I could see that, and have that kind of energy to it.
Emily Doskow, Burnett CMO, is here to explain the shift in branding beyond ads, solid brand foundations, and what consumers look for in a brand's identity.
What do we stand for? What do we stand against? What is our point of view? I think that in today's world, consumers want to know what that is. They want to be a part of that.
Ready to dive into modern branding? Then stay right here. Remember to hit like and subscribe to keep up with all of our conversations with industry leaders. Let's get into it. A warm welcome to the DesignRush Podcast again. We are so keen to pick your brain on marketing and just about the things that you folks do over at Leo Burnett.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to join you and to meet you and to get a chance to talk a little bit about what we both do.
The first question that I have for you, Emily, is how have the recent digital innovations and shifts in the market dynamics really impacted, new business briefs?
Yeah, new business has been, really a large focus of my career. So I have had a chance to see it from, 20 plus years ago to where we are today. The process of new business is really constantly changing and evolving. And I think that's a really good thing in our industry. As digital innovations, and shifts in the market come along, I think that the moment of time we're in now, and has been for a little bit of while, is that it's really no longer about ad campaigns. It's about a brand experience, and it's full 360 marketing. It's been that way for quite some time, but every moment, every touch point, and the wide variety of touch points we now have with our brands, building them offline, online, in so many different ways, it all just becomes a brand experience across so many touch points. So that's what, that's really what clients are coming and asking us for, and really kind of infusing meaning across all those touch points. I think that the industry, evolved into everybody building the content and what they needed with agility and speed to fill that. But now, and what we focus a lot on is that every touch point, every opportunity builds meaning, no matter how small.
I really love that. So I know that, brands becoming a lot more authentic has taken a center stage for quite a while now, actually, but we're seeing it a lot more in that. So I'm wondering, how are you folks working to make B2B businesses and stuff more authentic, or really make that a real brand experience? This is it's a conversation that we've had a few times, and I'm just wondering how you guys navigate that.
Yeah, we really talk about what the intersection is in terms of a consumer or a person and the values they're looking for, and intersecting that with what the brand stands for. And a lot of times we have brands, especially at Leo Burnett, who are long-standing legacy brands that have existed for many times. And in fact, we have some very, very long-standing agency relationships over that time. Clients like Kellogg's and Nintendo are clients we've worked with for, more than 30, sometimes 75 years. So it's really wonderful. But we make sure that clients have this authenticity in terms of where their origin story came from and what they stand for, so that over time, we're not shifting and changing who they are, but building on who they've always been. We work with clients like Jim Beam, and those are brands that have perhaps become a bit, generic or sometimes invisible, to the market, when in fact they're the founders of the category. And so it's really interesting to be able to take what they started with and be able to put that into the world in a really modern way. Icons like Tony the Tiger and Toucan Sam, finding ways for them to exist not just as mascots in ads, but exist. Tony being the first streamer, on Twitch, and Toucan Sam existing in Roblox, for young children. These are kind of the ways that we can take the authenticity of the brand and what it stood for and what it's created, but be able to put it into modern life.
I know a lot of people are talking about like marketing within like the AR and VR and AI space and stuff like that, and creating sort of like digital avatars. Do you see this becoming like a big thing for these types of mascots as well in marketing and branding?
I mean, we've already done it, for sure. So I don't know whether it'll become a big thing, but I will say that it's certainly something to be explored. I think each brand is, its own unique situation, has its own unique relationship with its customers. So who knows? But I do think it's we've been down the path for sure, and I don't see any issues. But it's we'll continue to have some fun.
Okay, well, I think it's a very exciting space to be in right now. I think there's just so much opportunity, and we don't know what the future is going to look like and what our advertising and marketing is going to look like. So it's, sometimes I wake up and I'm just like, what a time to be alive, right? Like there's so much to do now. Anyway, so just moving on a little bit. Emily, what are, CMOs really looking for as they look to evolve their marketing strategies to meet the demands of today's consumers, would you say?
Yeah, I'll go back to saying that it's really about building that meaning across
Mm.
every touch point. And I think today we're also looking to move with real speed and agility in doing that. So, one of the things we focus on quite a bit is having a really solid brand foundation where we know what that brand meaning is. We know what's solid and sitting in that foundation of the brand, so that when we move with speed and agility, when we cross all the touch points and all the different possibilities for brand interactions, the entire team, an entire integrated team on the client side, on the agency side, and on the partnership side know what we're building for and against, so that we can do that in today's world. I think that having that foundation is what's so important. And a lot of we have CMOs coming to us from, like I said, long-standing brands that know how to do this, but are having to kind of make sure that that's always front and center. And we have other brands, who are coming to us, who maybe have grown up in a world where they've built their brand as influencers and on TikTok, and in that, with that speed and agility and direct to consumer kind of model, and they're now growing into a place where they realize, oh, I skipped the brand foundation part. That's okay. That's absolutely the way things grow and start. But now I need that in order to really scale and grow.
Are there actually, speaking of which, when you're saying like, okay, I've already sort of, say for instance, I was a influencer or a brand that kind of started on TikTok and I blew up and I became viral, but I haven't really focused on my branding, and making it something really solid, and I've kind of been all over the place. What are some of the challenges that you find marketing for a brand or building a brand from there that haven't really had that base? Is it easy to pivot from what the audience already knows and has come to understand as something that doesn't maybe have a strong brand presence, or is it really, how do you manage that?
It's looking for consistency, and as you said, kind of the authenticity within it, that everyone who is working on the brand and has already been working on the brand for so long, or maybe a short time, to be honest, in some cases, they're growing that fast. But it's that they feel that is real and true and can run with. We often say that a really good brand foundation is something that everybody feels like they want to iterate on, they want to work with. It should immediately spark people wanting to get in a room together and, oh, I could see this and I could see that, and have that kind of energy to it. So I think that's the trick behind it. But I won't say it's easy. It's certainly not an easy process, but a fun process.
It's always a challenge and it's never boring, right? I mean, it's exactly. So it's very good. Okay, so just to get back a little bit to, emerging technologies and stuff within marketing right now, I'm wondering how many of your clients are looking into replacing like people-led tasks with generative AI right now, would you say?
Generative AI is the topic of the year and of the moment for sure. But I really don't believe clients are looking to replace people, at least not in terms of what we do. I think that generative AI is a tool. It's a huge growth accelerator for what we do, but it doesn't replace the craftsmanship. As creatives, it helps us get to ideas quicker. It helps us get to mock-ups and comps and all those great things that it can do so fast, and we're able to have faster, more depth of conversation with our clients at an earlier stage, which is wonderful. But we still need the craftsman behind it to polish and do what we do, which is why the work in the end becomes really breakthrough, and connects with consumers. At Leo Burnett, we have four core values, and one of them is the hands of a craftsman, and we take that really seriously. And I think the whole creative industry does. So AI is fantastic, but I don't think it replaces the people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I have to agree with you that there. I mean, there's just something about human creativity and humor and empathy that I don't think AI can easily emulate, right? And these are things that you need for successful marketing, in my opinion, at least. So, I mean, this is, yeah, absolutely on the same page with you there. Now there is also, or the new expectation. I mean, just taking that a step further, is the new expectation that Leo Burnett will help to take advantage of these types of emerging technologies or trends, for their marketing strategies, or really, how are you including that, for your clients who want to maybe leverage AI in their branding?
Yeah, absolutely. There is certainly an expectation and a desire, for us to take advantage of it. I think everyone, our clients and us, are all together working with it, and seeing how we can best leverage it for each unique situation. That's part of what we're all getting under the process of doing together. I don't know that it's something that like the clients are necessarily looking for us to lead them down that path, but together working toward it. If that's
Okay.
fair.
And then also, we at DesignRush actually recently covered a story or a study by Gartner that found that 87% of marketers fear that they might be losing their jobs to AI. And I just wonder, Emily, what is your stance or opinion on this? I know you said that, it will always need a human element, but what if at some point it doesn't? We don't know. It's growing at such an exponential rate. So I'm just wondering what your stance is on this.
I think my stance, as I said, is the same. I think there's a fear of the unknown. There's a fear of where it goes. We all are a part of the journey. So perhaps fair to say there's a fear of it. My personal stance is that it's not going to replace. We're not going to lose jobs. We're going to grow and excel together. I really believe that, and I think we will find that.
Okay, so just moving on a little bit now as well, just from emerging tech and stuff that's happening within AI. How do you folks optimize your marketing strategies to really maximize the benefits of digital channels? Things like social media or email marketing and paid advertising and things like that.
Yeah, we're really looking at channel plan. Channel planning, I think, is something that is so important to bring really earlier into the stage of the process. I think maybe in the past we're looking at what is the big idea. But we're looking at that, a bit in a silo. And now today, it's can't just be the big idea. It has to be the big idea with a full comms plan that looks at how we utilize the touch points and how we look at all of that really holistically. The landscape is constantly evolving, so we've got to keep an eye on how we can connect, and thinking of that in light of the idea and the foundational work we do as well. So that's certainly something that that is just constantly changing.
When you say holistically, I wonder, Emily, what is it to you that really is holistic within your marketing strategies? What are the things that you look for specifically to grow that organic engagement and traffic?
Just in terms of like that, we're looking, no matter what channels or what aspect of, let's say, a client's scope of work we're responsible for at the agency, it's making sure that we're building a creative platform that can work across everything that the brand needs to do. So often, as the creative, kind of stewards of the brand, it's our job to make sure that we're briefing and engaging teams so that there's something for everyone to be able to work with in that, versus looking at things in silos. It's really amazing how often people, we still operate in silos. Our jobs are so large, the touch points are so massive that it's easy to separate those. And I think even if there's silos on our client side of the business, or silos even on our side in terms of maybe different agency partners touching different aspects, it's making sure that those do come together in a really integrated team, and I think in an idea platform that can work across all of that. I think that's holistic thinking, regardless of where maybe your particular role plays.
Emily, I'd like to get more into like the meat of how you guys really help companies, in creating their brands for their businesses, right? So if you could give us like a small overview of how you guys, what are the things you start with? What do you look at first? How do you help brands really discover their brand voice initially?
Yeah. Ultimately, I think initially we're looking at where the intersection of consumers' values intersect our brand's values. But out of that, what we really want to come to is a brand point of view. And I don't just mean on social issues or things like that. Certainly that can be a part of this. But I mean, what do we stand for in the world? What is, I mentioned earlier, kind of brand meaning? What do we stand for? What do we stand against? What is our point of view? I think that in today's world, consumers want to know what that is. They want to be a part of that. And so we look at, kind of what is your point of view? And then translating that into a brand world. I think that's brand voice, that's brand expression, that's a brand identity. And those are the things that really stay consistent, hopefully over a nice long period of time. But I think that the combination of that point of view and that the world that the brand creates for people is what gives us a solid foundation.
Okay. So in your opinion, or from your expertise rather, what to you is the ideal brand strategy when starting from scratch? Like if you could give us like a step-by-step thing or checklist is it different for every brand, or do you have like a set list in your head of like, okay, we've got this new client that's coming, we're starting from scratch. These are the things we need to really pin down and take it to the next level.
Wouldn't it be great if there was an ideal strategy or a checklist? Wouldn't it be amazing? There is not. It is so unique to each brand. It is so unique to where they are in their life cycle, where they're already reaching and connecting with consumers and where they aren't. Getting really under the skin of what the challenge is and what the problem is we're really trying to solve is completely the starting point that then takes you in, so many different directions.
Oh, that sucks. I was really hoping I'm sure everybody feels like that. They're like, damn it, I wish someone would create a list for this. Easy.
Right.
Okay. So, Emily, then just one of the last things that I want to ask you about branding, well, not one of the last things, but yeah, one of the last things that I just want to ask you about is um, there must be some common mistakes that brands make when they first launch, right? Or businesses make when they first launch. Can you elaborate on what some of these might be?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is probably easier for the creative agency to say, but I'll say it anyway, is just taking the risk to really get to some breakthrough work. There is often a desire to want to maybe hit the checklist. Want to almost say everything in every touch point, rather than really taking some risks to break through and allowing the process to work. We need people to pay, we need people to get people's attention, and then we need to communicate with them, and then we need to build some way that they can engage and feel like a part of the brand. But this all takes time. And I think that having a bit of that kind of creative bravery and push and breakthrough is so important, because as we talked about at the very beginning, there's so many more brands. There are so many more touch points. Our modern world requires more breakthrough than it did yesterday. So I think that that's something that is easily, it's very easy to be safe. And I don't mean taking massive risks that would make anyone uncomfortable, but I do mean creatively, how we can really get some attention.
So do you have some or a example of a brand that you worked with fairly recently that took a major, or not a massive risk, like a really detrimental one, but like a risk, and that really paid off well in the end?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We work with a brand called Bare Naked Granola, and we did a really fun suite of work that was actually about finding, cataloging, and putting forward naked hiking trails. Now, the brand isn't about naked hiking, but I think that what is a brand with a small budget and a chance to make an impact with it. How can we do something like that can get some attention, can get a little buzz. We can have some fun together, and I think bring that brand kind of point of view and world in a way that people can have some fun with. So that's one example. We're working with another brand I won't name right now, but kind of a new to the world brand, and it's been really fun to see how we can open up a conversation in a new space with people, and maybe take some risks in terms of how do we talk about maybe some taboo topics or things that maybe the world hasn't done yet, to be able to maybe not take the safe road as much, but be authentic, help people too, maybe in a way that they aren't as comfortable talking about a topic, but we can help them do that.
And then just on a similar topic, really, do you have one or a case study or a brand that you worked with where authenticity really, where they maybe had to try and navigate back to authenticity, and how that really benefited them, like maybe took them more to an authentic route, is what I mean?
I think our work with a brand like Jim Beam is a great example. It's a brand that was originally created to be about a brand for everyone. Whiskey was perhaps, a brand that only certain, or a product, I should say, that only certain people, could do, a bit highbrow. And Jim Beam was originally created to be a whiskey for everyone. There's a line, it's a whiskey for people who like people. And we created a platform for them that's actually called People Are Good For You, because in today's world, there's so much pulling us apart. Tensions, digital, social media, everything else. And in a world where it's almost become a little bit fashionable to hate on people sometimes, maybe we can be a brand that's about bringing people together. And I think that was really authentic to how they were founded and how they started. Not everybody may know that, but I think that we can play a role in the world that way as a brand. So that's I think a good example of authenticity.
No, I love that. I absolutely love that idea because, yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, we are trying to get together. I mean, I blame COVID. It really separated us a lot, to be honest. COVID and social media.
It is true. It's very true. We went through some trauma there with it, which certainly impacts where we are today. And it's going to take a while to get, really truly on the other side of that. But we are good. People are good for people.
Exactly. No, exactly. And I think actually marketers in general play a very big role in, how society gets back together as well. I had a conversation yesterday with, another one of our podcast guests about, how media really can play a big role in advising people or bringing them together. And that's a very good conversation to have. Really, it is. All right. So, Emily, for brand marketers really seeking to establish or strengthen, client agency relationship, what advice would you offer to ensure like a really productive and positive partnership between these two entities?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it all comes down to open collaboration and trust. Like I said, we've had some really, really long-standing client agency relationships, and love that. We are a really long-standing agency, so to be able to say that those relationships are as long-standing as well is nice to say. I think that our best relationships are those where there's just really open transparency and collaboration. Being partners in the business, not just partners in the communications, is really important to be able to, as I said earlier, solving the real problem at hand. And I think COVID taught us actually that there was so much possibility for us to do that together, because all of a sudden everybody ended up not with comms briefs, but with business briefs. How do we solve this crazy situation we're in? Our product is, stuck in the supply chain. What are we going to do? Do we just turn off marketing? Is that going to help us? And we all, I think, immediately took a much bigger picture in how we had to work together. And I know that time period either strengthened relationships or perhaps like blew them apart. But I do think those are some of the best relationships, because we talk about solving problems. We don't talk about, just generating creative ideas. The other thing I see, especially in a business development role, I work across a lot of pitches, and it's easy to hold that process a bit at length and say, we're doing this in a very formal manner. We're only going to talk to you on these occasions, and it's going to be perfectly fair for every agency. My point of view, I think, is that's the way the industry has operated for a long time, and it's served us for a long time. But I do think we're in a different world, and being able to see what each other are like as humans, working the work together, is perhaps a better indicator of what could be a really long-term partnership. So, moving away from perhaps those kind of formal pitch processes and a bit more into collaborative projects together. Let's try this together. Let's talk to each other in, kind of that more natural way, I think can go a long way. So I would love to see more of that as relationships start and then hopefully continue for a long time.
100%. I couldn't have said that better myself, honestly. Emily, on the topic though of partnerships, excuse me, how has collaborating with platforms like, say, for instance, DesignRush really benefited your agency in identifying and working with top talent across various industries?
Yeah, I think there are so many more brands, and there are so many more agencies. There's so many more specialties, and so having platforms like DesignRush are able to be that, are able to help make sense of that total world, and can act as a bit of matchmakers in finding the right talent for the right situation. it's just not as easy to navigate with the world we live in now. So I think anybody that can help people on both sides navigate it is really helpful.
I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit more. Um, let's do something a bit more personal. But yeah, so just firstly, what guidance would you give to aspiring marketers aiming, for executive roles, such as a CMO like yourself in their careers?
Yeah, like someone coming up through their career. I think that getting tied to growth and looking for I was, especially as I think about like CMO job for me has always been like my dream job. So I couldn't be more thrilled to be where I am. One of the things that I did really early on, I knew that the agency world was for me, but I started working on pitching, and I always raised my hand for those kinds of things. And I think that it was intense. It was a bit risky, but it really drove kind of my love and passion for learning a lot of different kinds of businesses really quickly, taking risks, and just seeing what, how being a part of the growth of an agency or a client can really just propel you forward. And so that's always something that, as I tell young people who are looking to get into, advertising agencies, and maybe looking at my role as somewhere where they'd ultimately want to be, is raise your hand, and give that a go. You'll find you'll either kind of catch the bug, and or not. But I definitely caught the bug.
It's hard not to, I think, for sure. Okay, and then also, Emily, I know that we have so many people, or we have mentors, right, in our industries, and people that we look up to and respect. And I'm curious, who is that person or persons for you?
Yeah, I have been so lucky to have so many mentors throughout my career. Truly, one of my first jobs, I grew up in Nebraska, and I went to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. And I started working as an intern while I was in school, and it became my first job after school as well. And I will never forget the CEO and the CCO of that agency asking my opinion on, at the time it was like the talent casting for a radio spot or something, but it made, from the very beginning, I don't think I knew it at the time, but at the very beginning it gave me a sense of my opinion mattered. And I do think for a lot of like young people today too, you're coming out of school and you're coming into the world, and your opinion does matter, not only because of course your opinion matters, but also you have so much value to provide in terms of understanding social platforms, understanding Gen Z, that I think is just so valuable. So it's not just posturing. It's not just, oh, it's nice to hear the young people's opinion. It's incredibly valuable. And so I had that, really early on, perhaps before social media and everything was in place. But I do think, like, I'm so thankful for that. And then as I continued through my career, I had a mentor really in business development who showed me what it was like to do that side of the industry and flex muscles that I had never done. I was in client service, I was in account management, and then being able to look at how do I make what seemed to be a kind of natural transition, but actually learn like the what happens behind the scenes, was so incredibly valuable, and I remain friends with to this day. So yeah, I've had so many. I can't name them all in particular, but just really people who reached out, who took the time, I think, to have really deep conversations along the way and teach. It's one thing that we all have to do and need to do for the next generation.
100%. And I think we all need to be open to learning, right? And being open to taking that on from various mentors?
There was a mentor program that I love. I haven't actually been a part of it yet, but mentors of those who have been in the industry for a long time and young people, but actually reverse mentoring. So that and I think that's like, it's just fascinating and wonderful. So I think that we can have mentors and people who teach us all through our careers. That's something we can think about and maybe do more of. There's never enough time to do it, and it's so important.
I know it is. It's super important. It's one of the most important things I've even found in my own career. It is. I still can highlight all of the people that have inspired me throughout the years, and yeah, they will always stay with me. Now, finally, Emily, the last question I have for you today is, if you could travel back in time to the very start of your career, let's say even before that, like your 18-year-old self, and you could give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think just don't be, it's less about maybe being perfect or being a perfectionist is maybe a better way to say it, doing everything just right, and maybe more about bringing that point of view. Take your point of view is valuable, and speak that, no matter if you even know it. There's so much, I think, as like at that age, you're not sure what you think or what you believe or where you want to go. But it's, just kind of maybe taking a moment to say, figure out your point of view, take the time to do that, and drive toward it.
That's very good advice. I think a lot of us need to keep in mind that we shouldn't be too self-conscious, and like you said yourself, trust our own value is really, really good. Yeah. Emily, that is all we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us on the DesignRush podcast. We are very happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be a part of this conversation.
And that's a wrap on our insightful conversation with Emily Doskow from Burnett. If you're on the hunt for an agency that excels in crafting human-centric advertising strategies, visit designrush.com/marketplace. You'll find a curated selection of agencies ready to bring your ideas to life, whether it's in digital marketing, web design, or other creative avenues. Make sure to like this podcast and subscribe to our channel for more engaging discussions with industry innovators. Again, I'm your host, Bianca Mayer. Stay curious and join us for the next episode.